Imagine a planet of little TJ lasers, all highly skilled in weapons and biotic tactics, with me as absolute ruler. If you don't want to be a part of this incredible vision, then you can get a space taxi back to planet Idiot.
I'm TJ Laser, expert with lasers and phasers. Definitely scourge.
Where are we?
Lasers and phasers.
Good evening everyone, welcome once again to another round of the Tier 2 Will-to-Will F1 2019 Championship, and today the calendar takes us to a spot where old meets with the new. The Baku City Circuit, 20 corners, 6 kilometers almost to the spot. We are going to navigate through 26 laps today. And as again, we have a circuit going through the oldest part of the circuit, as well as having great views of the most modern architecture of the capital of the Azerbaijan. As you guys can see, we have the C4 as the softs, mediums are going to be the C3, and the hards are going to be the C2, but of course the weather can still have some tricks up their sleeves. Now, we're going to take a look at our standings. And as you can see, Lira is leading the championship with 66 points, 21 points ahead of both second and third places. Lasher and Colored Lonely are tied for P2. Brazian 10 points behind the pair in P4. Kuba 5 points behind fourth place, as we have Black Widow in the Red Bull with 27 points, with a 10-point gap over Proxa in the Ferrari, as Crime gets himself the best of the Alfa Romeo positions with 11 points in 8th, Rob Stark in 9th with 8 points, and Garrigan completes the top 10 with 6 points. Now moving to the constructors standings, we have Haas leading with 111 points, almost double with which Red Bull have accumulated so far, as they seek in second, 12 points ahead of Racing Point, as Brackley-based Mercedes sits in 4th with 34 points, Ferrari in 5th with 25, 10 ahead of a fellow Italian team in Alfa Romeo, as Renault is in 7th with 6 points, McLaren in 8th with 2, Toro Rosso win 9th place, last of the point scorers with only 1 point scored so far, and Williams sit in last place, being the only team without any points scored in this season whatsoever. So with that, we're gonna get ourselves started with our qualifying. Let's just sort everything out on my second monitor. Give me a second real quick. And yeah, okay, everything is sorted out at the moment, and as you can see, we have rain, ladies and gentlemen. We have 14 drivers today. We are hopefully getting joined by a 15th one that was just having some internet issues, but hopefully can still race despite missing qualifying. That was the Indian Overseer. The Toro Rosso driver wasn't able to attend qualifying due to internet issues. Hopefully can attend the race. So let's take ourselves, as we have Crime on the outlap, we have Colored Lonely. Ooh, that was a late braking spot, and that's gonna blow up your engine, mates. That was a bit of an interesting moment, especially as other cars are coming through. Aziox just got through the castle section. Hopefully no issues for the McLaren driver, as the Racing Point got out of his way. We also have Georgia, we have and Solo. I'm trying to find out of these drivers who is the first one to start a flying lap. Not really sure, to be honest. It must be Aziox. It must be, I believe it's Aziox. Lasher is behind. So yeah, we are going to see Aziox, as he's going to get himself a lap through the circuit. Of course, the Frenchman has only scored points in one occasion this season, 9th place at Australia. Unfortunately, wasn't able to finish the Grand Prix. Scuba is already out of the session, yellow flags in Sector 2. And looks like he's going to abort his lap. I'm not sure what's going on. The Racing Point is out to the pits. Will Lasher get going? As yes, looks like Kuba lost the rear out of turn number 19. And got himself in the wall, on the inside wall there. Looks like Lasher is going to get going on with it, though. The rain is still coming down, so no sign of getting dry soon. So it's going to be interesting to see if the weather is going to improve, and also what the weather is for the race. I haven't gotten that information from the drivers, so we have no idea if the weather is going to improve or not for qualifying or even for the race. Taking a look at Lasher's history, he hasn't been able to win. He got himself in 4th, in P3 and in P2. P3 at Australia, P2 at Bahrain, and P4 at China. But still hasn't been able to beat his teammates, still hasn't been able to get himself that elusive win. His teammate, of course, Lyra, is also racing, but we are going to have a look at him soon. He's currently in the pits as Lasher is getting himself through the exit of turn number 7 as we get now through the complex of turns 8, 9, 10 and 11. 4 corners in that castle section, at least officially those are counted as 4 corners. As he gets away, smooth on the power you must be, especially in the rain. You need to be careful in the dry, let alone in the rain, a little bit of getting out of balance as he got through turn 13, I believe that was. He's going to have to correct that one. We have already some carbon fiber on the exit of turn 15. He's getting now to turn 16, I believe this is, getting himself up through the gears. Must be smooth on the throttle. He actually accelerated over the curb. That could have been dicey. As he gets himself to turn 18 and 19. Must be careful. Mode number 5 on ERS. Let's see if he's going to derate or not. That might bring him a couple tenths slower to the line. Yes, he is derating already. He's giving his absolute best from the power unit. He's going to cross over the line, and it is going to be a 155.1 for him at the moment. So then we have a Crime, who is also close to finishing the lap. Let's see what the Alfa Romeo number 6 does. It's going to get crossed the line, and it is going to be 155.9, so it's 10 slower. Taraku is about to start the third sector. Wizok is in the third sector, and Black Widow is still in sector 2. So Black Widow is actually just coming out of the castle section. So let's see what the Toro Rosso driver does. After Wizok, we have the driver of the Alfa Romeo, the other British driver of the Alfa Romeo in Taraku. But let's see what the Toro Rosso does. He's going to cross over the line, and it is P3 with a 156.3. Let's see what Taraku does. Can he beat him? P2 beats his teammate. The second basically moves himself up to P2 and puts the pressure on Lasher. And then we have Black Widow, who is still in the third sector. In the meantime, we've had Lyra start his qualifying lap. We're going to take a look at him in a moment. Colored Lonely, Azeox, Georgia, and Solo are still on out lap. So looks like Black Widow maybe nullified her lap, and she's going to take it to the pits. Lyra also, did he crash? I don't know if that was a lag moment or just a crash. That was interesting. But let's see. Yeah, he was going rather slowly. I don't know if he just narrowly missed a crash or if he was actually recovering from reversing because he missed a corner. He's on mode 0. He definitely aborted his lap. So let's take a look from Colored Lonely and Azeox. Oh, there's also a Renault. Is that Cohen Blake? I believe so. I believe it is Cohen Blake, most likely trying to get drive. Oh no! Oh, and both the McLaren and the Renault having to reverse out of the escape route into turn 2. Quite interesting to see. Lasher is back into the pits after completing his lap. So let's take a look at Colored Lonely, the winner of last Grand Prix, taking advantage of a collision between a Toro Rosso and Lyra on the last corner of the last lap of the Chinese Grand Prix. So that was quite a controversial incident. Colored Lonely was able to get himself on top after all that mess. So he got himself the first win of the season. He got himself a 4th place in Australia, 6th at Bahrain, before getting that podium finish on the top step to boot. So great performance from the Force India driver. Let's see if he can maintain that form at the moment. Of course, Lyra is always going to be hard to beat, but let's see what number 13 can do today. So Colored Lonely is about to wrap up his lap. Of course, in these conditions, the all arm is still to be had, especially through these corners. In these conditions, the car can get loose quite easily. Managed to get through and is going to cross over the line. Of course, no DRS at the moment. Crime, in the meantime, has posted a 143.8. Will the Racing Point do better? No! 154.4 for the Racing Point at the moment. We have Azeox, who has probably also aborted his lap. Georgia is still in... No, he's actually in sector number 3. He's just getting through the fast 18-19 corner complex. and it looks like the rain has stopped at the moment. I'm going to take a look. Yes, the rain has definitely stopped at the moment, so I'm expecting the drivers in the dying moments to go out there on a set of dry tires. So challenging conditions, changing conditions as well today for the drivers. Let's see who is able to adapt and come out on top. Georgia P6 with a 155.9. Lira, of course, had the mistake. Is going to have another to give it another go soon. Cohen Blake is on his flying lap. Not really sure though. He's not really on a high mode on ERS, so I'm not exactly sure. So let's take a look at Han Solo, the solo Williams driver here today. Unfortunately, Ads wasn't able to show up. Let's see what Williams driver does. He's going to get himself onto the pits, it looks like. Yes, he's actually going to abort his lap. Maybe invalidated it somewhere. He's going to abort it and get back to the pits. Wizok, though, on his third lap on the intermediates. I wasn't expecting that one. He moves up to a 154.2, getting himself second place. There's yellow flag somewhere. No, it wasn't a retirement at least. But of course I can't tell who that was. Going to take a look at Lira. Is definitely on a flying lap at the moment. He's about to close the lap. Of course, no DRS just yet. Radek in the pits has already selected the softs. And Lira gets fastest, 153.6 for the Haas driver. Very good lap there from Lira. Very, very well done. Let's now take a look at Cohen Blake, who is probably on his flying lap at the moment. Yes, he is. He's going to close his lap rather soon. Let's see what the Renault driver does. In the meantime, we've had Haziox on a hot lap on another set of intermediates. I'm not sure if he's going to have time to do a flying lap, come back, both dries and come back again. Cohen Blake gets provisory pole. Great lap. Cohen Blake with a 153.4, almost exactly the same time as Georgia. George gets himself a 53.484. Look at that. 51 thousandths of a second separating the two drivers. Great performance from George, coming back strong after a very unfortunate Chinese Grand Prix, where he was actually running at the top, but then he disconnected and wasn't able to rejoin. He was running in the top 5 at that point. In fact, he had such good pace that his Ghost still finished in the top 10 by virtue of him just not making mistakes, and many of the drivers behind him had gotten involved into incidents, so stopped multiple times, and his AI was still able to finish in the top 10. Of course, the points are not awarded because he didn't complete 90%. I believe it is 90% of the total laps needs to be completed before a driver gets awarded the points in case of a disconnection. But yeah, he didn't do that, obviously, so unfortunately it is what it is. We have Aziox on his out lap. Let's follow on board with the Frenchman. He aborted his lap even before it started, really, last time around, as we have Crime in the pits on the mediums. The track is starting to dry out, not exactly sure. Ooh, and yeah, that's definitely not time for intermediates, I would say. He probably actually got damage as well, I can't quite tell. And the side, the bits on the side, unless he has missed both of them, I think the bits on the side of the front wing are black. No, he's actually missing both of them. He's actually going to take a damaged car around the lap, which I wouldn't recommend, especially as it's starting to become dry weather. And I think Han Solo went wide. Some driver went wide somewhere. Han Solo is still in the first sector. Black Widow it was Black Widow having the mistake. So she is still going to complete her hot lap. DRS is enabled at the moment, so I'm going to expect... Oh, as goes the egg. No, that's Aziox. As soon as we got out of his perspective, he makes a massive mistake. And yeah, definitely he has front wing damage on both sides, so it's not going to be a good time even if you push for it. DRS has been enabled, so the dry compounds are definitely the ones with the advantage at the moment. Aziox is gonna let Black Widow through. Of course, he probably doesn't know Black Widow is still on an out lap. Better be safe than sorry, right? And is going to nurse his car back into the pits, I assume, as Black Widow is going to do the same. Must be careful though, because these tires are not suited for these conditions anymore. You still need to be careful through the castle section. And just trying to take a look, no one is on out lap on the dry tires. I am not sure if they are actually going to try. Are they going to try to improve their laps on the dries? I would suppose so, but I haven't seen anyone out there just yet. 3 minutes to go. It is going to be a crowded last laps, or a crowded last minutes of this qualifying session. I am sure of that. And Solo is on his is he actually going for a flying lap? He actually went for a flying lap, but he bottled it at entry into turn 2. Azeox also is going on a flying lap. What? Oh no, sorry. He was already on a flying lap, but he's bringing his car into the pits. Now we have Wizok forgot to change tires, and there was probably a collision. There was some sort of mistake there. He left a couple pieces of carbon fiber on the wall. So when Solo and Wizok having a bit of a tangling moment there, Tanaku is a bit further up the road. Colored Lonely is ahead of Tanaku, I'm not sure. Yes, he is ahead of the Alfa Romeo. So it's going to be the first out of the cars with dry tires to start a flying lap, unless he lets the Alfa Romeo through, which looks like it's going to be the case. So I'm going to change into him. Crime is also out there at the moment. George is also out there on dry tires. Lyra has still to come out, a Lasher as well, and yeah, all the drivers that are on the softs at the moment, unless the race starts on wet circumstances, the drivers starting on the softs, I'm not sure they can pull off soft too hard. I'm pretty sure they will have to do soft, medium, medium. I don't think soft too hard is possible, because you can either do medium too hard if you want to do a one stop, or you can go soft, medium, medium, or medium, medium, soft, of course. But yeah, it is going to be interesting for sure to see how this one goes. So we are going on board with the British driver. Let's see what he does. DRS for the first time is available for the drivers, as everyone is getting out there on the track on dry tires, at least most of the competitors. Let's see what Tanaku does. 100 meters away from turn 1, he brings it down to third gear. He could have risked it a little bit more. Maybe the track is still a little bit moist. Let's see how much traction he has out of turn 2. Perfect traction, gets up to the gears. DRS wide open, mode number 5. Some drivers prefer mode number 5. Some others say that mode 4 actually gives you better top end speed, but might deplete your battery a little bit sooner. Hard on the brakes again into turn 3, and now on the approach of turn 4, it is critical to avoid the curbs through the entirety of the first sector, unless you want your front tires to jump, and of course without front tires connecting the ground you can't really turn. Like that happens to Tanaku. He probably lost time going over the curb at that turn number 6. Turn 7, he goes over the curb, lost traction there, almost went into the wall before going to in one of the tightest spots of the calendar. Turns 8, 9, 10 and 11 compose the castle section. It's going to take the left-hander off 12. It's a tricky traction zone as well, especially if you try to accelerate on the curb, but he's away through the old part of town, uphill through corners number 13 and 14. He's going to brake hard into turn number 16. I believe this is in the wall. I didn't see any carbon fiber flying though. He's going on the brakes into turn 17. 100 meters away is the braking zone, clips the curb once again. That is a quite high curb. That is going to cost him a couple tenths, I am sure. You commit the car, you throw the car in, just committing to the corner, hoping it sticks, as you get yourself through corners 18 and 19. Last right-hand king of turn 20. DRS wide open, and that's going to be it. A checkered flag shown to Azeox, who wasn't able to post a lap time. Tanaku, of course, gets the new fastest lap of the session. Colored Lonely is also about to get the lap done, and he gets new pole. 143.8 as the checkered flag gets shown to him. Tanaku, Wizok, Azeox, Goziag and Black Widow. Then we have, let's try to take a look, Cohen Blake is still in second sector. Crime is out of the lap. Crime is out of the session. Very unfortunate stuff. Lasher is on the pits. Wizok was in the pits. Lasher had a misunderstanding there with someone. Is getting his lap time quite compromised. I believe that was Solo. I don't know what Solo is doing still out there on intermediates. That might get him a penalty. As I was going to take a look, George gets new provisory pole with a 142.3. Cohen Blake is also about to close out his lap. Lira is still close to the start of the sector number 3. Let's see how it goes for the Renault drivers. He gets through corner number 20, mode number 5 on DRS. DRS just open wide at the moment. It actually took an extra second to turn it on, and he's actually going to abort his lap. He's going to the pits. Let's see how many places he's going to get demoted. Radek is going to get himself through the line. He's going to post actually lap invalidated, and Taraku, I believe, no, Lasher gets P2. What will Lira do? Let's see what the Haas driver does. Can he get pole? And it is going to be pole. 140.9. What a beautiful lap on the mediums to boot. What a lap from the Haas driver. 140.917. And gets himself on pole. I don't think there's any other driver going on a competitive lap. Of course, Anselo is still going out there. I thought that Lasher had been caught up in an incident with the Williams and that he had lost time, but Anselo, it was clearly not sure what he was doing. Clearly not tire suited for the conditions. He was stubborn enough to keep going on it. And we actually have 4 drivers that didn't set a lap time. Kuba was out of the session quite early. Crime only retired with a collision in the last lap. So, yeah, that's surprising to see that Aziox, Radek, Gozieg and Black Widow haven't been able to post a lap time. I'm quite surprised about that. So, at least they are going to have free choice on tires. So it is going to be interesting to see what they pick. Just waiting for the game to realize the qualifying session is completed, so we can then proceed to the results. And yeah, we are following Black Widow, who of course wasn't able to post a lap time, maybe because of an invalidated lap time, not sure, but nonetheless, unfortunate beginning of the race weekend for Black Widow. Kuba didn't post a time. Radek got his lap invalidated when he was pushing, so Aziox gets top 10 without tires, so that's interesting. 6th to 9th got within the top 10 without doing a lap on the dry compounds, which is also quite interesting. So yeah, just going to wait for the clock to run out, and we get ourselves through the loading procedures. And of course, every driver is going to discuss their strategies with their race engineers, with their Jeffs. Of course, I am not sure. I don't know if Overseer was still able to join for the race. He was having a couple of connection issues that prevented him from joining for qualifying. Hopefully he can join still in the race, but let's say I don't see his name on the list, so maybe he wasn't able to join. Unfortunately, he has scored 2 points finishes. He's the only driver. Sorry, no, I was looking at the wrong guy. He actually hasn't scored yet. He only finished 1 race in 17th at Bahrain and didn't start both Australia and China. So another non-starting race for the Toro Rosso driver, unfortunately. So let's see how it goes. As we wait for the drivers to get through their formation laps, we are going to take a look at the strategies, as quite a few cars ghosted. But in terms of the strategies, let's take a look at the tires. Most cars are on mediums or on hards, because of course that is the one-stop strategy. You start on mediums, pit at lap 12 onto hards, or you can do the reverse, start on hards, pit at lap 14, maybe 15 for a set of mediums. Of course, George, Lasher, Colored Lonely and Taraku are going on softs, which means they are going to have to stop twice. At least I don't have any data that suggests that you can do soft to hard strategy, so you are always going to have to do the 2-stop. Of course, you can do soft, hard, soft, or you can go soft, medium, medium. Of course, in a street circuit, the harder your compounds, the trickier it might be for you, especially a street circuit by nature needs a lot more from the tires, especially through the exit of the corners that tend to be quite tight, and most times as well quite important traction zones of the circuit, especially on a street circuit that's as long as this one, 6 kilometers, almost on the dot. It is taken with a quicker lap time because of that 2.2 kilometer back stretch. So it does reduce the lap time a little bit, but it's still a very long lap, especially sector 2, quite twisty as well, as you take you uphill through the old part of the city and then downhill. As you can see, Lyra on your monitors just went downhill into the last corner of, or sorry, into the last straight of sector 2. That's left-hander is actually the first corner of the third sector that then takes you to the modern downtown of Baku. It's quite a contrast as well. It's pretty interesting to see throughout a lap, especially on those on these camera shots provided by the broadcast camera type. It's actually quite interesting to see what the developers of the game come up with in terms of camera angles. Some are quite nice to look at and really show the contrast between the modern architecture that's present nowadays in Baku with the older part of the city on the top of the hill, of course, because of course in the medieval times it was better to defend if you had a higher position compared to your enemies. So of course the castle is on an elevated part of the town. We are going to get ready then as everyone gets on their slots. And soon the lights are going to lit up in red. And there you have it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Great start from Taraku. We also have a good start from Lyra. George has contact with Colored Lonely. The collision between the two racing points. Fortunately, no damage there. Taraku is going to take advantage of that. Say thank you very much. Moves up to P2. Lasher drops down to P4. George drops down to P6. There's Black Widow going wide. No, that wasn't Black Widow. Sorry, that was and Solo perhaps, or Kuba. No, that was Kuba. That was Kuba who went straight on in turn number 1. Crime is pressurizing Georgia, and there's a collision. There's a collision. Crime has spun around. There's a Renault also collected in that. That was Cohen Blake, and a very unfortunate stuff. Black Widow also got collected there. Front wing damage for her, and Georgia, I believe, also got front wing damage. I'm going to try to take a look at that in a second. The camera isn't quite helping me as Lasher, sorry, not Lasher. Yes, Lasher is trying to pressurize Colored Lonely. Yes, there is damage on, as you can see, that main... George basically only has the main flap on his car, and the left side is quite damaged as well, so he might go to the pits for a replacement. Lasher lost his opportunity to overtake Colored Lonely. Lyra took advantage of everything to already pull off a 2-second lead over the closest rival Taraku in the Alfa Romeo. P5 on qualifying is up to P2 by the end of the first corner. Colored Lonely in P3, Lasher P4, Georgia almost a second behind. Radek also moves up to P6, Frizox P7, Aziox P8, right on the gearbox of the Toro Rosso. Cuba overtakes Gozieg as Black Widow, and Gozieg maybe tangled there. I'm not sure what happened, but yeah, Gozieg and Black Widow on with difficulties, both of them. As we're going to try to take a look at Carl Lonely, is he going to take a look at the inside? He did have a look down the inside, opted to not pull the trigger on it. It does have damage on the left side of his front wing, so he's going to have to take that into account in every single time he attempts an overtaking maneuver. And Solo is promoted to P10 by courtesy of Goziag and Black Widow taking their cars to the pits. So let's go on board with Lasher as he has Prime Seat in the house for a potential battle between Colored Lonely and Taraku. They are on the softs. All 4 cars that you see in the top 5 apart from Lyra are on softs. So Goziag and Black Widow change into a set of softs. Crime and Cohen Blake change into a set of hards. So it's quite interesting to see how the different drivers opted to what tires they opted to go in as they exited the pits. As Lasher makes a mistake, he's going to have to be careful. Where is he going to retire? Why is he retiring? I would say he can... Yes, he already recovered his car, but unfortunately that mistake brought him down to 9th place. Georgia is promoted to P4. There's a collision with the wall though for the Brazilian. Rather unfortunate stuff. I'm going to try and find out if he has damage. Yes, he has damage. The side walls, for a lack of better word, on both sides of his front wing are gone. So unfortunately, Georgia is going to be struggling quite a bit. Whoa. as soon as I say that, he has a bit of contact with the wall, and that's not going to help. He definitely has to go into the pits for a replacement, and looks like that is exactly what he's doing as Leroy gets the fastest lap of the race. Colored Lonely is going to start having DRS at his disposal to pressurize Taraku with. Let's see how it goes between the Serbian and the British driver ahead. Looks like Taraku did get a better exit though, which is interesting to see. Colored Lonely is going to have DRS, but at this point doesn't look like it's going to be enough. In terms of the ERS management, Taraku, to stay away, used modes number 3 on ERS. Colored Lonely is on 0, so if Taraku keeps managing the tires, not the tires, but the ERS like that, is going to be put under immense pressure, because Colored Lonely is going to have an advantage, not only consistently getting ERS and DRS, is also going to have more ERS at his disposal. Taraku will run out of battery to defend with if he keeps up with that. Scanning down the order, everyone is a bit too far apart, I would say. Crime also goes into the pit after his unfortunate spin. Is brought down to number 14, to place number 14 on a brand new set of hards. Colored Lonely having a big mistake. Ooh, did Taraku hit the wall there on the inside, or did he just lose the rear? I'm not sure. That was weird. I've never seen something like that. Maybe he turned in too early and hit the inside wall. There's damage. I believe so. I believe he turned in too early and clipped the inside wall, because he's missing that side piece on the left side of his front wing. So Colored Lonely must be smelling blood at this point. Mode number 4 on ERS, going to have DRS at his disposal as well soon. The flap is wide open. Will Taraku go into the pits? No, he does not, but Colored Lonely just easy sailing, gets himself past the racing point. Taraku outbreaking himself just a slight bit. That's going to compromise his exit. If he kept it together, he could have challenged Colored Lonely now into turn number 3 using DRS, but you can see how he's struggling hitting the apexes with the damage he's currently nursing. So it is going to be rather difficult for him to contend for that second place. So it looks like Colored Lonely is going to start getting away with it. Taking a look at someone who is trying to recover, Lasher already got himself a couple places, especially after Georgia went into the pits. He's up to P8. Of course, he was running on the podium paint positions before this incident, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what happens to him. He's currently pressurizing Kuba, and again, Lasher is really not getting the best luck to him. Black Widow gets the fastest lap of the race, but as I was saying, Lasher once again looks like his chances of getting the win are slim to none. He hasn't been able to beat his teammates in any race so far this season, even the race where Lira... Oh, there's a mistake from him again, and he's in the wall. Rather unfortunate stuff, and he's literally parked there. I'm not sure how quickly he's going to be able to get away from that, and Solo is closing in. He had to slow down. Fortunately, Diaz is ghosted. Georgia is also through. Goziag is probably too far behind. Let's try to tackle. Yes, he is too far behind, but Lash is going to have to take it to the pits. Rather unfortunate stuff. Just locking up the rears. Either locked up the rears under braking. Oh, that was a moment. Yeah. Fortunate to not end the race right there was the AS driver, but the Croatian is going to have to take the car into the pits. I can understand the frustration, but he can still claim some good points as Wizok and Radek are duking it out for P4. Wizok gets himself 4th place, so he gets past the Mercedes driver. But the Mercedes, Wizok's getting braking for a little bit too long, I would say. Radek having to slow down further. That compromised his exit and is not going to be able to challenge Wizok into this corner unless the Toro Rosso does make a mistake. We also have Aziox and Kuba coming 2 blows into turn 3. Kuba, a little bit of a muscular maneuver there, a little bit of a forceful maneuver, but he does get himself up to P6. He's now trying to hunt down his teammates. Lasher is now on the pits. He's going to change his front wing. He's going on mediums and is potentially going to change onto another set of mediums or even go to the hards at some point in this race. He's going to come out of the pits, looks like in 13th place. Rather unfortunate stuff to see, but unfortunately the AS driver did get his race quite compromised. Looking at Radek, who's still within a second of Wizok, But before actually looking at that battle, I'm interested to see if Azox got damage from that maneuver from Kuba. Is there damage? No, I don't see at least any damage in the front wing of the McLaren. So after Kuba overtook him, it definitely dropped off in pace. Of course, at this point, the mediums, they degrade quicker than the hards, obviously. So in a track like this, of course, the talent of the driver might make a difference. You can have tires that are older than someone else, but if you are outright quicker, the other driver, despite having fresher tires, just can't quite make up the difference. But nonetheless, it is unfortunate to see Azox dropping back from Kuba. Saraku takes his car into the pits. Radek also lost connection to Wizok. I was expecting a battle into turn 1 in this lap, but that didn't happen. Taraku looks like he made a mistake somewhere. Oh yeah, he did make a mistake after the castle section. Remember, he turned in too early and clipped his front wing. He didn't lose too much time. He just wasn't able to keep up with Colored Lonely, so he's going to go into the pits for a set of hards. I would say he's going to switch later on for a set of softs and try to go on a charge late in the race. He lost time replacing the front wing though, so he comes out in P7. He still comes out ahead of George though, who has Ant Solo rather close to him, and Kuba has been closing in on his teammate. The Czech driver of the Mercedes is closing in on his fellow Czech, so a full Czech driver lineup at Mercedes. Let's see who comes out on top. In terms of the inter-teammate battle, at Australia, Kuba took P2, Radek DNF'd. Then at Bahrain, Kuba made it 2-0 by finishing in 4th, while Radek finished P9. And then at China, Kuba didn't show up and Radek finished P9 again. So it's 2-1 in terms of out positioning each other at the end of the race. So let's see how this one goes for the Mercedes driver. Of course, Kuba is pressurizing Radek. I'm sure he's going to have DRS rather soon. He's already in mode number 2 from ERS. He's going to move it up. Radek is on 0, which is surprising to see. So he's not really going to try and battle it, it looks like. None of them are really going to push too hard. Did Radek lag? I'm not sure. Maybe just lift off, not sure. But yeah, they are going to get promoted into P3 and P4 because Colored Lonely gets himself on the pits. Azox isn't too far behind the Mercedes though, just under 1.5 seconds as Colored Lonely comes out of the pits. 9 seconds behind Taraku, 3.5 seconds behind the top 5, so he at least has a couple laps of clean air in front of him, so he can just try to put up the fastest laps he can. Of course, he had started the race on the soft, so he's going to take the mediums. I'm really not sure if he can take the mediums until the end from here. He's probably going to switch onto another set of socks, but let's see how that one goes. In the meantime, Lyra is just easy peasy lemon squeezy, I would say. Get himself in P1 since the start of the race, taking advantage of the mistakes from others. He already nurses a 24-second gap to P2. Of course, Lyra hasn't pitted yet, but neither had P2, P3 or P4, so nor P5, and not a driver in the top 5 has pitted yet. So let's see. Of course, according to my data, you should pit at lap 8. Sorry, not lap 8, lap 12 if you start on the mediums to go on to the yards for the end of the races. We have yellow flags somewhere, can't quite tell where. It is sector 3, but those flags have been lifted, so I can't quite tell if there was any major incidents. A little bit of a wide moment for Azox through turn number 17. He gets through 18 and 19 now. He has lost DRS range, yes, with that off moment. He lost himself the rights to DRS and is going to have to keep his head down and battle it out again. Radek is still saving his on mode number 2 on ERS. Azox is having a much more aggressive use of ERS, so whenever Azox gets closer to the Mercedes will have ERS to respond. The Mercedes has almost double the amount of the McLaren, so yeah, there's an advantage there for the Mercedes driver. Taking a look at our order, Kuba is under 7/10 of Wizok at the moment, so as you guys can see, we are expecting a little bit of a battle in the next lap. Of course, they can't battle too much, because then Radek and Azeox are going to join the party, and that might get a bit tasty, of course, for us that are watching, but for the drivers, they are not going to enjoy that one bit, especially trying to hold up quicker cars behind them. Of course, Radex and Azeox are on... oh, there's a moment there from Wizok, but he managed to control it. Very nicely done there from the Toro Rosso driver, even though that compromises his exit. And Kuba is going to get better acceleration and is already past at turn number 14. Get the move consolidated into lap 15, into corner 15 rather, and into 16. Now he's going to get himself out of 17 ahead, but Wizok might have something to say. In the meantime, Taraku lost the place to George. Looks like Taraku has done the same mistake. He does have damage in the left front, so, or in the left side of his front wing again, so that is rather unfortunate to see, but nonetheless it is the case as it is happening at the moment. Looking at Wizok, he lost quite a bit of time after getting overtaken. He is going to be available, or have DRS available to him, but unfortunately he is too far behind and he clips the wall. Wizok clipping the wall there. That was probably front wing damage. Yes, there was front wing damage for the Toro Rosso driver, so not really ideal what happened there to Wizok. Rather unfortunate moment, but unfortunately it is what it is. We have Goziag losing a place to Black Widow as they are battling it out for P10. Black Widow is going to get re-overtaken perhaps though, since the Red Bull driver is... no, actually not. The Red Bull looked a little bit closer. Maybe that was just lag, not sure. But Black Widow is maintained P10, so good to see. She is finally recovering some places after the misfortunes early on the race. She is 10 seconds behind and solo though, so she has a bit of work to do, quite a bit indeed. Taraku is quite close to George, even though George looks like he has a clear front wing, and Kuba Azeox has retired from the session. Not Azeox, sorry, Kuba has retired from the session, and maybe there was contact with Wizok, as we have yellow flags in sector 2. No safety car though, despite Kuba being parked in a rather compromising position, and that's a 3-second time penalty. Why is Anselo taking so long to get back on pace? That was a weird one. But yeah, no virtual safety car. Kuba is parked. I'm not sure if his car is ghosted or not. The Williams driver taking avoiding action. Lasher in P11 also doesn't collect Kuba, so very fortunate stuff for no one to crash into Kuba. I just don't know if Kuba got himself ghosted or not, but well, it is what it is. Azeox is too far away to contest Radek's P4, as Radek also got DRS from Colored Lonely, even though he already lost out over a second to the racing point, which is quite weird, but yeah, it's quite weird to see. But then again, Colored Lonely has 3 laps old hards. Radek has done triple the amount of laps on his mediums, so didn't really have much of a chance to recover. Azeox though is back within a second, and we have some issue. Azeox, did he yes, Azeox went wide. Did he collect George? I'm not sure if he collected George. George doesn't have damage. Azeox does not have damage, so maybe they just had a mistake at the same time, and they didn't collect, they just missed the corner at the same time and ghosted through each other. So no harm done in terms of front wing health, as Taraku moves up to PC and he spun, or we have a couple puffs of smoke. Yeah, he has completely spun, and he is lacking a front wing. Wizok is overtaken by Colored Lonely in the meantime, as the racing point does get a much better exit, especially considering Wizok is having quite severe issues with the state of his front wing. But Taraku is completely gone, his front wing, so very unfortunate stuff. He's going to pits for the second time, and it's over. Taraku has retired from the race. I'm not sure if that was on purpose or not, but he is out of the Grand Prix. Of course, you had no front wing, so you can't take that corner at even half the speed you usually do. Will the safety car get deployed? I can't quite tell. I don't think so, but it is rather unfortunate to see. The Alfa Romeo driver is out of the race. Crime also qualified rather well, but had a spin early on the race. So disastrous race today for for the Alfa Romeo team. Not what they wanted at all, as Radek is finally going to get into the pits. Lap 11 is going to replace his front wing and is going to change into a set of R tires that is, in theory, going to take until the end without major problems. He's going to come out of the pits behind Solo in P7, maybe even behind Lasher. Will it be? Yes, Lasher does conquer 7th place from the Mercedes, so he gets himself down into P8 as he's exiting the pits. Looking up and down the order, the two cars that are closer on track at the moment are actually Lasher and Solo. I would say Lasher is quicker. Solo makes a mistake, turns in too early, gets himself on the wall. Lasher is going to say thank you very much and promote himself up into P6. So great job there from the As to avoid Solo and move up another place. Solo is definitely going to have to go into the pits for replacement of wing. So rather unfortunate to see the drivers today aren't getting the cleanest of races. I think the only driver that hasn't had any issues has been Lira, because even Colored Lonely, despite having a very good race in P2 at the moment, he had a collision into turn 1 with his teammate. So I think he's the only one who hasn't made a mistake all race long. He is just now pitting as we jump from one As to the other, and as he comes out of the pits, he misses the corner as Black Widow retires from the session. Going to try to take a look what happened and where that happened. Lira with that he goes, and then the lapped car went through. That might have actually been Crime. I think that was Crime. Trying to look at his mirrors, and yeah, I believe the As is behind Crime. Black Widow crashed out into turn number 3, and Azeox is into the pits as he's going to replace his worn out sets of mediums into the brand new white marked hards. Lasher is going to get himself promoted to P5. Will Radek get back at Azeox? He did the undercut. Will it be good enough? No, it's not, as Radek actually has front wing damage. Radek is sustaining quite severe front wing damage. I would say that is about orange damage in the meter when you play the game, right? The damage indicator. I would say that is orange front wing damage on the left side of that Mercedes, and it throwing away any chances of him finishing ahead of Azeox. I would say maybe even out of the top 5. A couple laps ago we had Kuba and Radek both on the top 5 with great chances to take maybe a podium, and now Kuba has retired and Radek has major wing damage. So rather unfortunate stuff to see from the Mercedes team. The race has truly collapsed after a great start. So let's see how it develops towards the end. Radek is the closest car to a car that is ahead. He's only 2 seconds away from Azeox, but Azeox is going to start pulling away. I'm rather sure of that one, as we are going to scan the gaps, and yeah, everyone is too far apart from each other. George is 15 seconds away from Wizok. Colored Lonely is 5 seconds away, almost 6 seconds away from the Toro Rosso, and Lira with that mistake allowed Colored Lonely to catch up, but it's still an about 10 seconds difference, so not much to be seen on that department. But just analyzing Azeox's results, he did finish a 9th place in Australia, he did not finish the race at Bahrain, and he finished 11th at China, so he's currently doing his best position at the moment, as Radek does get into the pits, and he gets a 5-second penalty for exceeding the speed limit, which is rather unfortunate as well. He's going to change into a brand new front wing, as you can see, also into a set of medium tires, and he's already dropped down to P8. Will he drop down to P9? Let's see. I would guess Koziak can get him. I would say so. I do believe so. And yes, he does get him. So Radek gets demoted to P10. He does have brand new tires, but he's going to have some work to do to climb a few positions. Now, taking a look at Lasher. Where is Lasher? Lasher is in P5 on 8 laps old mediums. He could just pit and go for hards at this point, but looks like he's not opting to do that. Maybe he's going to try to take these mediums for a while longer, trying to race the end on a brand new set of mediums. Let's see how that goes. The AS driver, who had a good qualifying, he actually was running in the top 5, but then 2 major mistakes on the castle section cost him any chances of battling for the podium paying positions. He's still in 5th, but he's going to have to pit soon. Azeox is going to get promoted. Cohen Blake also has to pit, so, and I'm not sure if Radek can overtake Lasher. So I would say Lasher will only get demoted a place, but then again, it's going to be too far away for him to breach the top 5, I would say, unless someone does a mistake, which has been happening a lot, so anything can happen still. Another front wing change from Mizok. He has been able to sustain front wing damage and just be careful enough to not worsen his condition. Of course, he was dropping time, but he managed to sustain the damage without completely throwing his race away. So he's going to come out of the pits in P5. Azeox is going to get side by side. It's going to be close as they approach turn 2. Wizok is going to mount the curb. That's not going to get him a good exit. Azeox is going to inherit the RS from the Toro Rosso. He's going to have the flap wide open. He's running out of the RS though. Is he going to launch down the inside? Yes, he tries to, but Wizok is just slightly too far away. So unfortunately, Azeox wasn't able to overtake Wizok. Now we're going to keep looking at this battle, perhaps though, especially as Cohen Blake is on 12 laps old tires, the white marked hards. Those are quite old, but he caught up to Azeox. If he can, perhaps for a couple more laps, just stick with Azeox and get the slipstream and the RS, he's probably going to lose out in the other sectors because of course he just doesn't have as good traction, right? Azeox is on 10 laps fresher tires, but Cohen Blake also has damage in the right side of his front wing. I actually hadn't noticed that one, but he does have damage in the right side of his wing. So yeah, he's really going to start dropping out. He just caught up a little bit because Azeox had a battle with Wizok, but he's dropping out. I think he's already run out of DRS range, so unfortunately it is what it is. We are going to have Georgia in P3. He had his fair share of misfortunes. He's qualified very high, then he had bad starts, then had front wing damage. He's back into P3, but he still hasn't pitted. I would say Lasher will overtake him, but Lasher will have to stop once again. Wizok might overtake Georgia as well, but I'm not sure. Georgia will have fresher tires than Wizok, so he might still come back at the Toro Rosso driver, but the gaps are quite big. Maybe Azeox can also contest Georgia once he comes out. Scuba has left the session. He had already retired from the race, and Cohen Blake does go for the maneuver into turn number 3, gets past the McLaren of Azeox, and that's quite surprising, I would say. Maybe Azeox made a mistake because Cohen Blake had lost the DRS range and now he's ahead, so very unfortunate mistake there from the McLaren driver. Talking of unfortunate mistakes, Gozieg gets a penalty. Didn't quite see the timing, or oh god, Azeox completely misses his braking zone, smashes into Cohen, and I'm trying to find out if Cohen got damage from that one, and yes, he did get damage. Cohen got damage on both sides of his front wing now, unfortunately. The stewards might have a look at that one. I believe we got a good angle of that one, so if the stewards are going to use that angle, I am not sure, but there was a rather reckless maneuver there from Azeox. He probably didn't even want to pull off the maneuver, just got caught out maybe from the lack of downforce, helping stop the car because he was so close to the Renault. Maybe he got caught up from the dirt here, or he just fell asleep at the wheel and missed his braking points. Either way, always in the wall. Azeox is massively in the wall, is completely run out of front wing, and is definitely going into the pits. Actually legs out behind Cohen Blake, as both are going to take it into the pits. So that helps out Wizok, that helps out Lasher, who still has to pit, and helps out Georgia as well. So Georgia might still be on the cards for a top 5 here today. Let's see who comes out ahead out of these two though. Azeox is going to replace onto soft tires. 10 laps on softs, that is interesting. Cohen Blake is on mediums, so yeah, I would expect Cohen Blake to have a massive advantage over Azeox. The Renault keeps himself ahead. Radek though is gonna get himself on his third lap on mediums. up 2 places into P6. So it is definitely going to be tasty, the battle between Azeox and Cohen Blake, as Azeox is going for sure to start putting the pressure on the Renault, even though he lost out quite a bit at the exit of turn 2, but the soft tires are going to allow him to put the pressure for a bit, but after that, since the delta for degradation is higher on the softs, Cohen Blake is going to start having the advantage and potentially even pull away. He's already within a second of Radek, so good outlap from Cohen Blake, and he might already start challenging Radek in the laps to come. Let's see how it goes. We are going to keep ourselves on board for this Scuttle section as Radek gets a little bit wide at the exit of turn 7 as we get through turns 8, 9, 10 and the right-hander of 11 before the left-hander of 12. Let's see who gets the better traction, and looks like it was Radek, a slight bit better, but Radek did pull away a little bit. Cohen Blake is going to have the slipstream, so that is going to get him a little bit closer, but he does have to brake a little bit earlier because of the dirty air effect. He doesn't want to get caught out and do exactly to Radek what Azeox did to him by getting caught out on the dirty air, I assume, and slamming into the back of Blake's car. Now we have a very good image there from our helicopter crew as Radek gets himself on the wall, almost collected Cohen Blake there. Cohen Blake, I think he managed to avoid damage, but he is going to get himself up into P6. He's not going to get the RS though somehow. That's going to be Radek getting the RS. There is Azeox in the mix as well. Let's see how that goes for him. He takes a wide approach to turn number 1. Cohen Blake is forced to defend down the inside. Radek is going to have to give space. Let's see who gets the better exit. Azeox couldn't quite go on the power as early as he wanted. Cohen Blake did get a good exit and he's taking slipstream. He's taking the RS as well. Mode number, I don't know, mode number 4 on ERS as well, as Radek was in mode number 1, and smooth sailing from Cohen Blake. It was a bit of a dicey battle there, but nonetheless very well done. Oh, there's a mistake there from Radek, who's in the wall, and Radek is out of the session. Radek is out of the Grand Prix. Both Mercedes were running in the top 5 at one point of this Grand Prix. Great chances of finishing in the podium as well. And a couple laps later, I would say about 10 laps later, both Mercedes are out of the race. Unfortunate mistake. We have 4 drivers getting claimed as victims of the challenges of this track, and we have 11 cars racing at this point. Sorry, we have 10 cars racing at this point. Rather unfortunate to see. But yeah, Azeox, despite having the softs, he has lost an immense amount of ground to Cohen Blake through that battle that victimized Radek. So a little bit of a mistake there from Radek, braking too late, trying to defend on the inside, trying to outbrake his rival. But one thing is outbraking, other thing is completely missing a braking zone. That's what Radek did, and both Mercedes are out of this Grand Prix. So we have about 8 laps to go rather, and everyone is quite spreaded at this point. I would expect Georgia and Lasher to have pitted by now. They probably should pit by now on softs, try to get the fastest lap of the race as well, to get that single point. So I would recommend these drivers to pit right now. It's 8 laps on softs, right? So let's see how it goes. Let's see how much longer they extend these tires. But Georgia has definitely confirmed that this pace at China isn't just a fluke. Georgia has been able to present very solid pace at China before this disconnection from which he wasn't able to recover. And today he's in P3 despite having his issues. He has been able to recover and is currently in P3. He might get overtaken by Lasher, who also has to pit, and Wizok might overtake both of them since the Toro Rosso does not have to pit, but then Georgia and Lasher will have softer tires, and surely they are going to put the pressure on the Toro Rosso driver, the British driver of the Toro Rosso. Lira, in the meantime, has been smooth sailing for the Croatian. He who has only had one hiccup where he missed the braking zone into turn 2, but at that point he had already an over 20-second gap, so he didn't lose much. He lost 10 seconds. Corded Lonely in the meantime isn't showing to be as quick as Lira, especially as Lira has almost half the amount of laps done on his hards compared to Colored Lonely rather. So Colored Lonely is going to pit again onto the softs. The gap is big enough, I would say, for the Racing Points to be able to pit stop on the same lap. But unfortunately, we aren't seeing any on-track battles anytime soon, I would say. So Crime is getting closer to end Solo, so we might have a battle there for 8th place, and Solo has 5 laps fresher tires than Crime though. And while we might have Crime closing in for the battle, actually I'm going to wait, because he's going to close in on this sector now, and is potentially going to try for an overtake into corner number 3. Yes, he did get closer, a little bit wide on the exit, a bit compromised exit there, but let's see what he does into turn 2. Goes on the brakes, gets the curb there, that's not gonna help him. Also had to correct a little bit as he loses the rear under acceleration, so unfortunately Crime isn't going to be able to overtake just yet. Let's see how it goes as he gets up to the gears. 100 meters away from the corner is where you brake once again, and he is still chasing down Han Solo at the end of the first sector. Let's see how he does in the remaining laps. Lasher in the meantime has pitted, comes out in P5 behind Wizok, as I was predicting. It is a 6-second gap, more than a 6-second gap between Lasher and Wizok, but Georgia was, I don't remember what the gap was, but if it was more than 6 seconds between Georgia and Lasher, Georgia can pit and still come out ahead and still try to get the point for the fastest lap. So let's see what the Brazilian does. The Williams is really struggling there, especially to turn 11, got quite wide. Crime is going to potentially get a much better exit out of turn 12 as we get uphill now through turn 13. A little bit of a wider approach from the Alfa Romeo into turn 15, and into 16 they go on the brakes. Will and Solo, he clips the curb. Ooh, it touches the wall, but only with the rear tires. Managed to keep his front wing intact, or at least not worse than it already is in case he has damage. Crime is going to definitely have DRS though rather soon, and Solo has less amount of energy on his battery as well. So let's see what Crime does. As Goziak is off out of the Grand Prix, so only 9 cars remaining. No no safety car at the moment, and Crime gets himself a smooth sailing as he gets past the Williams. The Williams doesn't pose much of a threat there, and it is what it is, going to get himself a pass. Wizok has lost 4 seconds. Wizok has lost 4 seconds to Lasher. So he's really struggling with those mediums at the moment, or maybe just had a mistake somewhere, and Lasher is really pushing. He's potentially going to get the fastest lap of the race as well. I would really recommend Georgia to pit. He doesn't really have nothing to lose, I would say, at this point. Or even Colored Lonely, because Colored Lonely, he was in the championship. I'm going to take a peek at the championship real quick. Going to show you guys. As you can see, Colored Lonely and Lasher are tied on points. So, as you can see, Lasher is in P5, is going to try to get the point. He just got the fastest lap with a 141.7. Colored Lonely could also try to get the point, or Georgia could also try to get the points to at least deny it from Lasher, right? So, unfortunately, let's see how it goes for the race, not the race India, the Racing Point. The Racing Point drivers. Let's see if they take it to the pits or not, as Han Solo gets a 5-second penalty for exceeding the track limits one too many times, as Lasher finally gets past the Toro Rosso of Wizok. So that's it for that battle. Aziox has been losing time from Cohen Blake since the pit stop and that battle with Radek. And Wizok is already a second away, so not even a chance from Wizok to fight back and try to contest that 4th place. We do have a very good camera at the moment, a very good camera angle provided by the helicopter crew. I was actually going to switch onto the perspective of another driver, but take a look at that. As you can see, the design differences between the buildings as we now get to downtown. Let's see what if we get a similar perspective in terms of the angles that the game will give us. Let's see. I can only see trees at the moment, and yeah, you see the arch, you see the buildings as well. So yeah, I can see a very good contrast, very nicely done. and Wizok unfortunately isn't doing as well. He's already 1.7 seconds behind Lasher, and things aren't looking to improve. Let's take a look and see how it goes now from Colored Lonely and George. Let's follow them for a little bit. Colored Lonely has almost a full bar of ERS and is actually coming up to Crime to lap him. So again, those two are really taking a strategic blunder by not pitting to try and get the fastest lap. So it is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Let's see how that one. I would really like to see both Racing Points pitting and pushing for the fastest lap. That would really be nice to see. Unfortunately, even if Lasher gets the points, he's going to break the tie with Colored Lonely, and Colored Lonely will be securing second place. Of course, Lira is going to extend the gap, I would say, to 28 points from Colored Lonely, unless Colored Lonely gets the fastest lap, I mean. So while we wait for everything to happen, let's take a look at the race director. Let's see if Lira has any warnings or penalties. 0 at his name. Colored Lonely has a warning potentially for a collision with Georgia in the first lap. Not major damage or anything, just a collision. Of course, too many cars in too little of tarmac. Also, Lasher doesn't have even a warning, so apart from his mistakes, in terms of discipline, it has been a disciplined race for the AS driver as well from the Toro Rosso. In the Renault, Cohen Blake, 0 warnings. Hazeox has 3 warnings, one of them probably not for corner cutting. That was probably the warning he got when he slammed into the back of Cohen Blake as he missed his braking zone. In the meantime, I think Crime has been lapped by Colored Lonely in the meantime, as we have 3 laps to go here at Baku, and there's a mistake from Colored Lonely. Is in the wall. He outbreaks himself into the castle section, and what a mistake. Ooh, that is a true mistake there from Colored Lonely, as the Serbian driver puts it in the wall at the castle section. George gained 5 seconds from that alone, and at least we are going to have my wishes come true. He's going to pit for softs, right? At least I hope so. I hope he pits for softs. I'm really hoping he pits for softs. He has about orange damage in the right side of his front wing, so especially now into the quick left to right-handers, he's going to suffer from he's going to suffer from understeer. He really has to go slowly there. He's going to lose George. He's already under 10 seconds. George is going to get promoted to P2. Let's see. Will George have P2, or is he going to be the teammate and allow Colored Lonely to get back into P2? The revs are killing me. I'm sorry about that. Wow, my ears were killing me. I'm really sorry about that. George promoted to P2. Colored Lonely is going to get softs, and I hope he's going to push for the fastest lap. Let's see how it goes for him and how far away he is from George as they come out of the pits. The gap is going to be about 15 seconds, I would say. Let's find out as he comes out. Lasher is less than 5 seconds away, so it's going to be interesting. 2 seconds, less than 2 seconds almost from Lasher to Colored Lonely, and it is 15-second gap between Colored Lonely and George. So unless George pits, Colored Lonely has truly bottled his chance of a second place. He might still get the points from the fastest lap, because it's as it stands, Lasher he has himself the fastest lap point, but Colored Lonely, I'm pretty sure he's still at 0 ERS, but I'm pretty sure he's going to push. We are going to keep following the Racing Points driver, because his revs are no longer bugged. I don't think. Yes, if I go on TV Pod, I can listen to his engine without having my ears collapse. So we can follow him for a little bit, and potentially he's going to have a try for the fastest lap of the race next lap. We're going to keep following on board with the Serbian. Let's see how it goes for him as he takes it smoothly through corner number 16, I believe that is, as he approaches now 17. He missed the apex but keeps it within the track. Let's see how it goes. He needs to get a good exit out of turn number 19. Let's see. Yes, he uses the full width of the track. Nice Nice corner there, nice exiting speed as well, and that's going to be it. He's 2 seconds away from Lasher, so he has no danger of getting challenged for position, and he has already gained the second on George. Unfortunately, it's too far away, and is going to get approaching turn 1. Bring it down to third gear, getting a little bit over the curb at the exit. I believe Crime is the car that he has ahead, so maybe if he's quick enough, he could catch up to Crime and still have DRS for the end of the race. Let's see how that goes though. It's getting up to the gears once again before approaching turn number 3. Heavy braking zone, about 110 meters away from it is where you go on the brakes, bringing down to second gear. He's doing a good job of avoiding the curbs. Gets himself down to second gear again for turn number 4, up through the gears. Now it's a tricky braking spot, about 70 meters away from the corner is where, oh my god, that's going to compromise his chances of fastest lap, as Crime has a spin to corners number 6, 5 and 6 I believe that was, as we get now through the tight corner of turn 7. Will he make another mistake into the castle? Let's see, he needs to take it, go, and yes, he did manage to get through it without contact whatsoever, fortunately for him. Let's see what happens though through the remaining of the lap. He got a little bit tangled, or almost tangled, with Crime. That might take a knock at his chances of taking the fastest lap. He's going to have to try again at the next one. Let's see though what happens. He's going to approach the first corner of the third sector. Now he's improving by over a second, by just under a second, his best lap time so far. So let's see how he gets through. Another good exit from turn number 19 and 20. DRS of course not available to him. He's already gained 2 seconds to Lasher on the previous lap alone, so great lap from Corleone. He's going to cross over the line. It is a 1:44. Just going to take a look at the fastest lap. It is a 1:41.7 from Lasher, so he does need to push if he wants to claim that point. In the meantime though, we're going to jump to Lira, who is already through the second sector, just going to complete the race with him. George did 23 laps on hards. Look at that. He's fortunate that people around him also made mistakes, because otherwise he probably has those tires screaming for him to park the car. Those tires can't take any longer, I would say. 23 laps on hards. I have no idea how much percentage of tire wear he has on those, but that is not good. For sure, he's really taking a dicey move by not pitting. He might actually get a puncture on this last lap. I don't want to jinx him, but let's see how that goes, as Leroy is gonna get himself through the last couple corners. He only has 3 corners to go now. Hopefully he doesn't crash the car on this fast sector. And this is going to be it. DRS is not available to him, of course, but he really doesn't need it. Didn't even add any use for it the entire race. Great performance, smashingly dominating performance. And there you have it. Lira is going to cross over the line to take home the win of this Azerbaijan Grand Prix. In fact, Lira also pitted for softs. I didn't catch that. He actually pitted for softs and got the fastest lap of the race with a 1:40. George gets himself P2. Great performance after his misfortune. He opted to risk the one stop when I didn't think possible, to be honest, and got himself a second place right ahead of his teammate, who in fairness bottled his race. Gets himself third. Lasher is going to get fourth. Wizok is going to get fifth. Aziox is going to come home in P6 ahead of Cohen Blake, who must have crashed somewhere and had to replace his front wing, because Aziox was losing a lot of time to Cohen Blake. So unfortunately, that is it. Crime and then Solo lap down have already crossed over the line, and Aziox and Cohen Blake, they are still in the second sector. So yeah, it is, wow, the amount of time these drivers lost compared to the top 5, it is a very big amount of time. Fortunately, they are relatively close to each other, about 4 seconds separating them, but I think the gaps are too big for the penalties to even have any effect whatsoever. So I think Aziox is pretty set in stone in 6th place, and Cohen Blake is pretty set in stone as well in 7th. And I also saw on that little back straight into turn 7, as Aziox was coming through, both Force Indias, both Racing Points have caught up with each other. So maybe George, after crossing the line, got a puncture. There is this potential for George getting a puncture after crossing the line. Let's see how that one goes though. Yeah, that was it for this race. We're going to get onto the podium. We have the Serbian on the top step. Oh, sorry, not Serbian, the Croatian on the top step of the podium once again. Third win in 4 races, 4 straight podium appearance for the Oz driver, and he pulls away with the championship lead. Great race from him, taking advantage of the chaos. He was the only one who didn't get involved in any chaos into the first corner of the race, and takes home the win, despite, of course, great job as well from both Racing Points who close out the podium. So coming back strong, especially Georgia, who didn't finish the previous race, comes back very strong with a second place finish. Then we have Lasher in P4, Wizok in P5, Aziox P6, Cohen Blake in P7, Crime in 8, Han Solo in 9, and no one else behind him is going to get any points finished. It was Han Solo, Gozia, Gradek, Black Widow, Taraku, and Cuba not finishing this Grand Prix. And of course, this is it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like button. If you did not, the dislike button is, as always, right beside it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. It's the bell icon for any notifications of whenever I'm about to start a live stream or to post a video. Hope to see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.